Hey YouTube, Jay Green 302. It's been a while. I think I'm going to call this one maybe process of analysis. Or analysis, I don't know. Concepts, ways of thinking, abstract ideas. Very difficult to work all these in and not drone on. So I'm going to do the best that I can, and I haven't made any videos in a while, so this is not going to be easy, but we're going to give this a shot. Let's dive in with, starts with a TED Talk. TED Talk was about where do good ideas or genius ideas come from? And apparently some people who are a lot smarter than me reviewed, where does inspiration come from? Short version, it's the collision of a lot of different ideas that when, after stewing for days, months, or years, results in a eureka moment. Collision of ideas. So my takeaway is that the key is to get the ideas and then let the stew do the collisions to work on better ideas. So, with that being said, the second part, analysis, is to think about those ideas. Think it through, visualize it. Walk down the movie path in your mind and take a look at it from a first-person point of view and play it out as far as your imagination can take it, like you were dreaming up a storyline for a book. It's the best way I know to describe it because that's what I do. When I talk about this analysis of ideas, my first statement on that was to get the ideas. I get these ideas from the do-it-yourself world when I watch this guy go through this RV thing, and the things that he's focusing on are not the things that I'm focusing on. And it's generated a lot of very interesting ideas. Somebody from watching my videos, shout out to Mark, we've been talking on a very regular basis. Almost every day we communicate back and forth, and we're talking about, I had this idea today, or I had that idea yesterday. What do you think of this, or what do you think of that? And it's that dialogue has generated tons of interesting ideas. There's been no videos because I've been working for the last two and a half months, nonstop, around the clock. So I haven't had any time to really get a lot of stuff done or put any videos out or do anything. And I finally got some time. And in that time, I've watched and consumed a lot of information. And it's weird how this collision of ideas works because I'm going to give you an example. One of the things that I have found while talking to yet another person on a regular basis is that there are ideas that I don't realize I'm thinking about until somebody asks me the right question, and then I answer them. And at the time, I'm focused on answering the question. I'm not thinking about why I'm giving that answer. And then I hear myself, and I hear what I said, and it's like I'm hearing this idea from somebody else. I don't know where it came from, and I have to stop and I have to think about what I said. And I wind up getting some of my best pearls of wisdom that way. I don't realize it until I'm asked the right question. So, for example, last night, I was talking to a younger guy. I think he's around 26, 27. He's in the military. He's trying to figure out whether or not he's going to re-enlist, what he wants to do, where his focus is. He was talking about going and turning his truck in for another car. And basically, I asked him, I said, man, look, it sounds like you're only thinking about the next 3 months. I said, but you're sitting here telling me you might get out of the military and you want to go to Arizona, but you're telling me that you're going to turn your truck in for a car. But you need a truck to move. Well, if I re-enlist for 4 years, then the military will move me. So you're willing to risk your life for a two-day journey from the East Coast over to Arizona. Are you crazy? And it stopped him in his tracks. And I asked him, I said, well, dude, what do you want to do? And he says, well, if you would have asked me last year, I was going to be married with kids by now. And I said, okay. I said, what do you want to be doing by next year? He says, well, if you ask me right now, I want to make guns and ammunition. I want to have my own business. And I said, okay. And do you think it's fair to assume that you are doing any of the thinking about that future goal when you're thinking about going and getting this little car instead of your truck, not planning for a move, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera? You get the point. Then I sat there and I took that exact same thought, and I kind of wanted to point it out that we need to have some realistic goals when we talk about dealing with how do we prepare. Which leads me into, now you have the setup for why I'm going to mention where I'm going. I had to work on the flow on this, but the point of all this is that if you take a look at the world today, the threat of EMP attack is about this much, and the threat of a killer asteroid is maybe this much. The threat of, say, a bad storm might be this much. The threat of economic downturn, just 1928 style economic, well, it's that much. So are you putting all your money to try to cover this, or are you thinking about that? Where is the problem? So in some discussions that I've had with a couple people, I refer to this as parallel preparing. If I buy a generator, I don't want a generator sitting there that's never used and spend a bunch of money on a piece of gear that I'm not getting daily use out of. I don't want to invest in food that I won't eat unless something bad happens. I don't want to invest in radio gear I don't use. There are some exceptions to the rules, but if I were to give advice, which I don't, I will tell you what I am doing and let you decide what is best for you. But I've had many, many conversations, and the same thing keeps coming up. The number one concern to prepare for is loss of job, economic downturn. Not economic collapse, economic downturn. Realistic. Anybody that is out there listening, as you heard, I have not put out a video because I've been working my ass off. Well, it's finally slowed down. I could lose my job. And if I do, compliments of a random woman that was couponing at the grocery store who pointed out to me, it's always nice to have the security that if you lose your job, you're sitting on enough food that you don't have to go to the grocery store, and it buys you time to start dealing with your problems. And I thought that was very astute. I thought it was very realistic. I thought it was based on experience. I've been there myself. I do a lot of that myself. So storms and hard times, if a bad storm comes through, whether you're in Tornado Alley, whether you're in earthquake area, whether you're on the East Coast or down by the Gulf where you get hurricanes, it doesn't matter. If something happens for a couple of weeks, like Katrina or Sandy, this is a practical approach because we have to balance our work life with the quality of life, with reasonable approaches. The same woman I was talking to in the grocery store, I found a deal where I could get free ketchup out of this particular store. I got 120 things of ketchup. She said I couldn't hold it that long, I couldn't use it that long, and I couldn't give that much away. She said that's when I realized I went too far. I was like, no shit. Practical. So flashlights, water storage, the ability to filter water, having food supplies on hand, and some personal security, defense, ammunition, guns, whatever. However you plan to. These are must-haves. These are not. Focus on it. Doesn't cost a lot for a gun and, say, a supply of ammunition. You don't have to get 20 guns. You just need to have a shotgun, a pistol, and maybe a rifle, and ammunition for them. If you do, you're ahead of most people. food. You don't realize, you have no idea. So here's my analysis slash suggestion. Every egg carton I save, if you look right there, I even save the eggshells. I save Dryerland. I save every plastic bag. I save every container. Where is it? There it is. I save and wash and clean every reusable container, every can, I'm retasking everything I can. But my point was to have containers and to have dryer lint for fire starting and all that. But what I found out is that you, until you start actually keeping track of how much you are doing in the consumption process, when you review what you've got stored up, you realize you don't have anywhere near what you think you do. And the only way that I can get you to see it the way I do, start reusing, repurposing, and resaving your stuff and watch what adds up. And it will make very clear that you have not put enough away. Either take the time, whatever, but you don't have what you think you have as far as time. But all of this will protect you in the event of a loss of a job, economic hard times, etc. And I think that this is practical, and I think if anybody stop with the bug out bag focus, I got to have this knife, I've got to have this gun, and I'm just going to go Rambo badass. If you're listening, if that's your goal, you're crazy. Pay attention to your political world. New York's trying to do gun confiscation. I read a report that they're using the MRAPs to break through people's houses because they wouldn't come out on first command. I've noticed that the EPA is shutting down the last lead smelter in the continental United States, which is going to affect batteries. It's going to affect ammunition. It means all of our lead's going to have to come from out of the country, which is going to drive the cost up. The batteries may go from $89 a battery up to $120. Ammunition may go up 40%. These are things to think about. You have to watch what's going on, think about what it means, analyze what's going on, and be ahead of the curve. The moment that article broke, there was 300 boxes of bullets at one of the local manufacturers. Within 24 hours, they were sold out and back ordered because everybody heard the same lead report and everybody jumped. And those are the people that are going to have what they need as opposed to the people who don't. So you do need to pay attention. There was a report today that I saw. A guy was holding two signs. One was, give a man a gun, he can rob a bank. Give a man a bank, he can rob a country. And one other one that was equally, not, it was just a concept. They arrested him for felony charges. This is what our country is going. This is what's happening. So you have to pay attention to this to add to that how you want to go about the things that you do. How you do it, where you're located, that's up to you. But you need to follow this to start making adjustments. Your plan has to be very flexible. A note about police and crime. There's a lot more crime going on than is being reported. Now, that seems like a very general statement, but it's being hidden is the more accurate statement. And you're living in a facade if you think that what you think is the current state around you is. Well, the reality is there was a crime that was pulled at the local place where I get my gas. And it took me almost a month to get to the bottom of it. But apparently there was a report that there was a gun holdup with a drug deal gone bad at the local convenience place during midday. Well, I pulled in. I saw the local police officer. I walked up and I said, "Hi, how you doing? I'd like to ask." He says, "Never happened." Just point blank, straight face, never happened. I'm sitting there going, well, maybe my information was wrong. Thank you very much for your time. And I went in. 2 minutes later, I have the employees of the place telling me about the crime. But then the other night, a month later, and this whole process, I'm talking to some folks, and they're telling me that it was a false report of a drug deal gone bad because one dude tried to screw somebody else over. The dude that was getting screwed called the police. Oh my God, people at Walmart. Tried to accuse them of holding him up at gunpoint, found out this dude was trying to buy drugs from him. Everybody got arrested. So never underestimate the power of stupidity, of greed, of fraud, of lying. So when I checked with a bunch of other people, a lot of credit card accounts are being hacked, and nobody's reporting it. The reports, there was one post, and about 8 people chimed in that they've all been hacked, their cards have been turned off. One guy was traveling. I was talking to somebody who said that there was people trying to call in and say that there was a problem with his computer and he had to get in. All you have to do is check the local personals. How many people are sitting down and have been reduced to the point where they're willing to do sex for money? As those ads increase, you can pretty much use that as your economic indicator, how bad things are getting. Crime is another one. It's not being reported. It's a lot worse out there than you realize. Current statistics say that there's more people on unemployment than there are 40-hour-a-week full-time job holders. That should tell you everything you need to know. You can bet crime, fraud, theft, and vandalism are all going to increase. And they are now restricting or dialing back the dollar amount for the food stamps. That is an indicator down, which means more of that is to come. We're $17 trillion in debt. Handwriting's on the wall. You better start getting ready for bad times. We're really already in it, and I'll leave it at that. Okay. One of the things that I would definitely sit down and point out, and I will back this up with the things that I've done, is last week I paid off my car. I paid off my 5-year car loan in 2 years. I did everything I could to get that thing paid off. That's why you don't see a lot of real high dollar stuff. It's my last debt. The banks have no holds on me. I am not going to be sitting there holding a 90% paid off item and in that last 10% lose my job and have the bank come in and confiscate my 90% of investment in an item because of the debt rules. The debt rules are the chains. Get out of debt. Secure for loss of job, I've kind of covered. Dual purpose purchases. And everything that you purchase for preparing. If you're getting food, get food that you can actually work through. And I'm even getting like powdered milk, powdered butter, and learning how to cook with it. And it's actually working out very well. Ironically, it's actually going to drop my food bill. Coupons. I work coupons. I talk to people who work coupons. I'm doing everything I can to lower my expenses to free up more money to deal with things that I do need. And I will do a second video on some of the things, but just simple 55-gallon water, potable water, food-grade drums. Because if something does go wrong, those towers that hold that water are gravity-fed. If the pumps can't pump it back up, and you've got 2 55-gallon drums on hand, realize that you all could be in trouble, and you fill them. You now have 110 gallons of drinkable water that nobody else has. You're already 90% faster than them. That's why you pay attention. That's why you pay attention to where you put your money. The drums are the only exception to the rule. Everything else that I am picking up is something that I can use in my daily life. So if nothing goes wrong, I did not waste my money. And I'm urging everybody to think along those lines. I'll leave it at that. You know what I mean. How much you go through, I already did that. Ideas, talk to people. Okay. So in all of this collision of ideas that stew, I am telling you some of the things that I am thinking about. This is where my focus is. I am watching. I expect to lose my job. When that happens, I want to make sure that they can't take anything, that I can feed myself, that I can clothe myself. While it's feast time, I am making sure that I cover for famine time. I am reviewing everything that anybody says and thinking it through and visualizing it. I am looking for how practical the solution is or how impractical it is. The most important thing is how you go about thinking this stuff through. And I will add one last point. I was going to add this to the other video, so if it duplicates, fine. You'd be surprised. This book was highly recommended by a couple of people, and the reasons for it were simply a lot of people have put that to good use. As you saw, I'm not reading. I haven't read it. I'm in the beginning parts of it. The concept here is if I can improve my memory, I can handle a lot more subjects while I'm sitting there at the doctor's office or while I'm sitting in traffic. My mind can be put to use working on some problems, which it normally does, but I can't remember everything. So I'm looking to take the time now to improve memory. It's not the same as having 3 months worth of food, but anything that gives you an advantage is worth it. And to me, being a lot brighter up here is a tactical advantage, just like having food. It's just like having anything else. I'm trying to track an awful lot of information. I can't always remember it all, but it's there, and I just want to be able to recall it better. Tools, how you think, why you think, the way you go about thinking. Don't let me be the one that thinks for you. Fish for yourself. Thanks for listening.